Here we go with 2-point perspective, 5 boxes in a row, linear perspective, showing here with a little bit of shading for the top, front, and left side, and a slight illustration of the cast shadow in perspective. Problem number 2 is draw 5 boxes in a row. Here's a picture showing just a little bit of a diagram, almost a third of the distance down for the horizon line. We'll use a third of the distance with the left and right vanishing point, showing you one box, and then how to do a little bit of geometry to help you plot and plan the opposite side. Here's the ruler just showing you. It's a little bit large just to show the image. It's not actually a ruler on 8.5 by 11 paper. But we'll just rotate it with 0 up at the top of the page. This allows you to divide something of equal measurements if it's an odd number. In this case, a third is difficult to decide on a ruler if it doesn't match. So you just rotate it using the geometry of the parallelogram coming in. Here's 6 inches, so at 2, 4, and 6 you would have the third distance, and that's going to put the horizon line and or called the vanishing points on left and right, or the eye level. So here we have it started. So we're just using Illustrator to help with the diagram here, so it's easier to see. The drawing I have that you can take a look at is a little easy to see, but not as clear as the Illustrator. So just using the line segment tool, so it might help you a little bit with Illustrator, and giving it a little bit of a stroke thickness, 1 or 2, 3 points, just to give it so you can see it. So this is a line segment, endpoints top and bottom. We're going to draw those to the left vanishing point, and also going down to the bottom left vanishing point. And keep in mind as you do this, you're trying to click on a segment that is not selected. So rather than deselect it, I just go to the opposite side that isn't selected. Makes it easy to draw. It doesn't confuse the line segment, so it starts to add points to it. So there's the vertical line segment, left and right. Here's an arbitrary distance for the length of the box, just the shift key held down with the stroke tool. And do the same on the other side. Again, this is just arbitrary to give a shape to it. And there you have 2 sides, left and right. And then taking those 2 segments and the right to the left vanishing point, left segment to the right vanishing point. And when they intersect, that'll give you the cube. Even though we don't have the hidden lines, we don't necessarily need them right now, but those would be the same coming down to the top and bottom. So to find the center of a rectangle, and in the illusion of perspective, just cross the diagonals. Makes it very easy. And that gives you the center point. And if you did this on a flat page, like a checkerboard or chessboard, it would show exactly how this is working, because it's all bringing up some geometry principles. So finding the center and then extending at this case to the right side, and then dividing it with a line from upper left or bottom, depending on which way, and extending it is going to show this distance in the illusion of perspective, and it brings it straight up. And that gives you that box shape and projected in the same way. So when you think of this like a building or a sidewalk or anything that you see daily, it's showing you that same measuring perspective. Brings it very simple. So here's the third panel, and you could go on into infinity according to perspective, minus the curve of the globe. On a piece of paper, it gives you the theory. So this is an example for that. So here you can see the fourth piece just being projected, and you can kind of see how the pattern fits in. So you're thinking of it as a linear drawing with line, shape, value, color, texture. You're making the shape. We'll add value as we go through color a little bit, but we'll just stay with the value for the shading, and if you include some texture. But there's your 5 boxes all the way through, and here we'll just extend them so that at least you get the practice and the understanding that it's going and dividing this. So hopefully you start to see the geometry and the matrix of it all, however you want to see this put together. It's used everywhere, so just remember it's the underlying source of everything you see daily. So there you have the 5 boxes. So to finish this up, I'll just, in this case, you would do this lightly in pencil, so I'm just selecting everything with the bullet on the layer and just minimizing the value of this. So here it is with blue. Just hold the Shift X in Illustrator. That switches it over to make a light blue. So kind of simulating a blueprint. Also just a light blue pencil line drawing that used to not photograph on a stat camera. And just kind of giving that illusion. So at least it'll give you a little bit. But I'll darken it up so you can see it. But just remember, we're just going to work right over the top of this with the illustration. Makes it a little easier. In that case, I'm just going to, on Illustrator, just create another layer and take the pen tool in order to illustrate this out, so it makes it that much easier. But again, you just kind of see this as it doesn't matter which direction you did this, if you can see it going above or below the horizon line, and kind of understanding that this perspective, simple principle, fits just about everywhere. So let's make sure I'm on the layer, lock that layer, that's good. Work on the top one, let's see what's going on here, yep. So there it is, all selected, just lightening this up one more time, just make it a light gray. So hopefully you have that etched in your visual memory there. So there you have it. And just work right on top of this. Nice thing about Illustrator, whether the layer is locked or not, the smart guides that you see are telling me that I'm at an anchor point or a line segment, so it's almost helping me guide, just like connecting the dots. Just clicking that has a fill of black, a fill of white and a stroke of black. I'll just give it a light color just so it can be seen. Deselect everything as I'm drawing, or just start on another shape that isn't going to be connected to that. So here you can see if I did this all the way across, I could just go ahead and make the whole stretch of this all the way down, but I know that I want to have these shapes separately, but just to kind of give you the idea of how that comes together. So I'm going to treat it as individual pieces that have 3 sides to it. The first one's going to be the only one that has 3 sides, so I'll give it a lighter value. Here's the tints and the shades on the computer, so that makes it a little bit easier. And again, there it is, just deselect it and go ahead and click on all these panels. Just zoom in just slightly so you can see it a little bit easier. And again, smart guides are helping me. Click right onto that point. Coming down here. Nice, easier way to show the perspective, demonstrating at least. And like I said, when you use pencil, pen, marker, it doesn't matter. As long as you have the understanding of the principles of the theory of perspective, it'll fit right in. In other words, very seldom you see something this geometrically placed unless it's like in a construction site that has everything level, clean, and nothing attached to it. Just strip bare. So here I just had the same fill. I'll just go up and change that in a minute. I'm just going to draw these panels out. See how far it goes. Makes it a little bit easier. And again, whether you use the keystrokes to deselect things so you can just keep on working, it's just how you work and describe the workflow of your project. And it goes through there. But it is convincing. It's giving you the illusion of 3-dimensional space on a picture plane, 2-dimensional surface. And it's always exciting. If you like perspective, it's always fun. So here you have it. There's the whole shape. I'll just go ahead and change the panels just so that you have a little bit piece here, but I'm going to kick in a little bit of the cast shadow. Now, depending on the light source and the direction, light source, it's up in the air at that angle, almost like a 60-degree angle, and that would travel way off the top of the page and come down to the vanishing point, and that way it would project that angle. So depending on where it is, we'll talk about that later, but for now we're just going to simulate it with at least a line. These are radiating, from a certain distance. If I did it right from the vanishing point, they would be parallel. So I'm just pretending that the light source is not on the vanishing point, but almost like 3 o'clock to the right, sun rising or setting, depending on which time of day, just showing the distance of where I would go back to. In Illustrator, I just want to trap it, so I'm going to go behind it and just use Command Shift and the bracket key to pop it behind the rectangular shape, so you don't really have to worry about trying to match that one, but it is tucked in behind it. And then just click on the tops of these with the Shift key. You could try to select them, but you might grab everything if you don't have it locked. And just give it a lighter shape, a lighter color for the shape, and just 3-tone colors. I'll change the colors, but I kind of like the lightness to it. So here you would see the gradient, and selecting it this way. So I've selected all the shapes and just taken the stroke off. And in Illustrator, it would give a question mark on the fill because it's not sure what fills you have for that. So they're all different. So that way it's going to show off a little different there. So in the illustration, I can make this as a screenshot just to give it to you. Hopefully you can get an idea of how that would be in the pencil illustration. Here's the stroke, here's the linear part in reverse, and then we'll finish it off with a color scheme